Welcome to this tutorial on how to sew the Patli Pants. You can find the link to the pattern in the description of this video. Let's start by cutting the pattern pieces. I cut mine using a rotary cutter and cutting mat. The seam allowance is included in the pattern. I recommend using light to medium weight woven, non-stretchy fabrics with a nice drape. I'm using a light wool fabric. Here we have all the pattern pieces. I'm now drawing the back darts onto my fabric with my fabric chalk. Next, I'm marking the notches of the front leg for the pleats and zipper fly. I also mark the rectangle for the welt pockets. Doing the same for the back legs now. Now it's important you cut off the zip facing only on the right front leg at the marked line. I'm cutting one half of the pockets, one waistband, the belt loops and the zip guard from interfacing too. Then I'm cutting half of the pockets from lining fabric since the wool fabric I chose is very bulky. The next step is to add the iron-on interfacing to the pattern pieces you cut it out for. I'm also adding some leftover interfacing pieces to my zip facing. If you're sewing with bulky fabrics like me, I recommend you cut the pockets from lining and made fabrics and sew them together here. I also finished the edges after sewing. Let's prepare the belt loops. I'm ironing the seam allowance on both sides inwards. Then I'm folding the whole strip in half and iron and sew together with the raw edges inside. Then you can cut them into 5 pieces of 8 cm length. Now let's sew the front pleats. Fold the pleats together, the notches, and sew 5 cm down. You can also use a ruler to measure 1.5 cm from the edge. It is very important to sew the pleats as accurately as possible, since they will directly affect the waist circumference. Now you can iron the pleats. Iron the outer pleat all the way down to the hem. You can then sew 5 mm from the edge on the right side all the way down. Now let's sew the back leg darts. Align the marked triangle so that you will be sewing exactly on the marked lines. When you're sewing darts, it is important not to backstitch at the end. Instead, tie a knot or two at the end to secure the seam. Iron the darts towards the crotch seam to make them nice and... The next step is to sew the bottom of the front pocket, like this. Now align the diagonal edges of the front pocket and the front leg and sew. Understitch the pocket to the seam allowance at the diagonal seam. Then iron the pocket to face the inside of the pants. Pin the pocket to the top and side and sew with a stay stitch. I like to finish all open edges of the front pants at this point to make it look very neat from the inside too. Let's sew the welt pockets. Add a strip of interfacing to the wrong side of the back leg at the welt pocket marking. Then pin the welt pocket to the back leg by exactly aligning the rectangles you marked earlier. Sew all around the rectangle with a regular straight stitch on your sewing machine. You can now cut the rectangle open in the middle. Be careful not to cut the seam, especially when cutting diagonally into the corners. Now we can turn the pocket inside through the hole we just created. Take your time to iron it flat. Fold the top down and align it with the top of the seam allowance of the rectangle you just cut. Iron it well. Then fold up the bottom part of the welt pocket and also align it with the top. Sew all around the pocket without sewing the actual pants. Make sure to sew over the little triangle on each side. Secure each end of the welt pocket from the right side with a few stitches. Then finish the edges again without sewing the actual pant leg. And the welt pockets are done! Now let's get to the zip fly. Fold the zip guard in half and sew from the right side, then finish the seam. Then sew the front crotch seam up until the marked notch with 1 cm seam allowance. My zipper is too long, so I'm trimming it to 16 cm length and I'm sewing the bottom to prevent the zipper from opening. Now we can sew the zipper to the left straight edge of the zip guard. Fold the zip facing inwards at the marked line and iron. Then pin and sew the zipper with the zip guard onto the right front leg at the very top. Close the pants to align the zip guard and the zip facing perfectly. Pin them together. Then unpin the zip guard again and only pin the zip facing to the zipper. Sew the zipper to the zip facing on the front left leg. Pin the zip facing to the left front leg again and sew along the curved edge on the wrong side with a basting stitch. Then sew along the curve you just sewed to make it look prettier on the right side with a regular straight stitch. Remove the basting stitch from before. Unpin the zip guard and align it with the zip facing. Sew a few bar tags at the bottom to secure the zip guard in place. This is what the finished zip fly should look like. With the hardest part done, sew together the back leg pieces at the crotch seam. Then sew the front and back legs together at the side seams and in-leg seam. Let's prepare the waistband by sewing it together along the inner curve, right sides together. Iron the waistband so that the wrong sides are facing each other. In case you're wondering, I had to retake this part since I did it differently from the original instructions for the grey pants. Then you can pin and sew the right side of the waistband to the wrong side of the pants. Fold the waistband in half, right sides together, and sew as closely as possible to the edge of the center front of the pants. Do this for both sides. Trim the seam allowance in the upper corner to make it easier to turn the waistband inside out again. Now we can fold the remaining open edge inside and iron it. I pinned the waistband with the seam allowance folded inside and the belt loops tucked in between at the center back, side seams and inner front pleats. Sew the waistband shut, including the belt loops, sew as closely as possible to the edge. To finish the belt loops, fold the ends inside and upwards and top stitch them. One of the last steps is to sew the buttonhole and button to the front of the waistband. Make sure to sew the buttonhole to the right side, which goes on top. To sew the hem, I finished the edge and folded it over by 4 cm. After ironing, you can sew an invisible hem by hand or with your sewing machine. With the pants wrong side facing you, fold the ironed hem inside and leave 1 cm of the finished edge as overlap. Then you can sew with an invisible hem zigzag stitch along the edge. It will secure the hem in place without being visible from the outside. I added a buttonhole to my long grey pants too. And a cute button. And the pants are done! Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, feel free to subscribe to my channel or check out my Instagram at Telabeja and the hashtag Patli Pants for more inspiration.